Welcome, everyone. This is part two of Ursula O'Parallel and myself coming together today to talk about the power of art. And today's presentation will be even more focused on the power of color infused art. And we'll go into so many amazing details about all that. But before we do that, in case you are new to whether my channel or Ursula's wonderful channel called the Ascension Playground, I just want to share a little bit about our coming together. I am deeply grateful for Ursula's presence in my life for the last 2 years, because she has become this wonderful, invaluable support to our Galactic astrologers community, offering support to so many wonderful students and practitioners of Galactic astrology readings. You may have seen Ursula on many of our Galactic Ambassadors podcasts as our co-host. And just she's been really helping me to come out more as a teacher, as a guide, supporting me during several presentations on many different topics. So today I am really joyful and grateful that I can now hold space for Ursula for her to shine a little more and for her to get a chance and opportunity to talk about her journey with art, which is absolutely extraordinary. You know, she's a lifelong experience with working with art, with colors, with shapes, with sacred geometry, which was the main focus of our last call. We'll include the link to that previous recording in the video description, but really just holding space for a soul that is so giving, so nurturing to others, and now having that opportunity for her to enjoy the spotlight. I know it's not easy. So you may notice during the presentation, there may be a natural inclination for Ursula to talk about other things, not just her own experiences. So I'll do my best to keep her on track and tell us as much as possible about her own experiences with art and her own journey of coming out to this beautiful blossom that she is as a gift to this world. So welcome, Ursula. How are you feeling today?
Well, Julia, I think we could end the recording there. Thank you very much. Nice to see everybody.
No, well done for coming here and preparing this amazing presentation that we'll share soon. Do you want to tell us a little bit, just a little hint to what will be the main theme for today's call?
You know, I began this little conversation in my mind thinking, oh, we will talk about this joy and expansion of color. Instead, my guides were talking with me, my star families, and said, you know what? It's that, but also it's time for you, Ursula. It's time to tell the story. Tell your story of why you're so excited about color and painting and your life so that you can help inspire others. So this coming out of the comfort zone is really helping me see it's not about me, but this joy of understanding how does color inform the galactic, and then how does it inform my life and my body in the embodiment. So we're going to take a look a little bit at the chakras too. So it's putting all this portrait of your life, you know, and trying to make sense of, oh, the whole of it. And Julia, you've taught me so much as far as like, I hear that word holographic and quantum, but thanks to your program through the Quantum Soul Guidance Practitioners course and getting to meet so many of our star family members who are being certified, it's like this empowerment of, okay, it's time. So it's time, Julia, to tell, and the joy of it all.
Oh, absolutely. I just also want to highlight the process before we go any further of how it starts. You know, you receive that spark of inspiration, you feel that nudge of coming out and sharing something that may inspire others, because I believe it's coming really from that place of wanting to inspire others, wanting to be part of the expansion process and joy that comes to others as a result of your co-creation and sharings. But there's this just spark idea, and then you kind of make the arrangement for the video called presentation to be shared publicly, and then you don't really know what exactly the call will be like, what will be included, but as you sit with it, as you surrender to allowing to come out, the inspiration starts coming through more clear and clear, and then suddenly you start working with slides, you put the skeleton together, and just beautiful uh, divinely inspired ideas come through. So I just wanted to highlight that for others who may feel like, at the beginning stage, it's completely blank. You have no idea how it's going to go. But as you surrender, okay, I'm going to just open up and allow it to come through, magic starts happening. And it's so enjoyable. It's such a beautiful process when it then comes together. Would you agree?
I would. In fact, I was sharing earlier before we started recording that witnessing your transformation over the past 2 years, Julia, the reluctant researcher who would come out and just have these amazing data. You were tracking data and you wanted to see if there were these connections to the galactic. And then beautiful Hector came forward with the calculator as one of your students to just say, here's a gift. And so from the gift comes this expansion. And we're still trying to put these pieces together. And so for anyone listening, it's for you to decide. Like, don't believe us, feel into it, tune into it, whatever that data is, whether we're talking color or star families or the galactic experiences. These are very personal. And yet for me, it was always this, who just touched my shoulder? Who keeps pushing me into looking at sacred geometry? I mean, my goodness, I'm known as a figure painter. What am I playing with the world of mandala and geometries? The art world, I would say, probably thought I had lost my mind. You're stepping away from the human brand, right? We live in a world of branding, and yet it didn't, when it's time to move, time to let that old person die, and then you're ready for you're ready for more food. It's like an infant with milk, and then moving into, you eventually grow, and as you grow, you expand what you feed yourself with. So I'm looking at it as, this is my human journey. And the joke at the end, it's like, what was I so afraid of? It was just part of evolutionary expansion, right, Julia? Like, we talk about it galactically, but when you do it in real time in 3D, it's like, oh, that fear surrounding you. Am I going to stay in my box? Am I going to keep my old skin? Or do I, go to that Saturn return, or shed the skin and allow for the new creation of you? And think how many chapters of you there are when you look back. You're not the teenage Julia or the college Julia or the married Julia. We have these pivotal passages in our lives in 3D. If we're aware of them, then it's like, okay, well, that's just part of my journey. And holding it gently, as Joseph Campbell would talk about the hero's journey, but I look at it as, okay, well, the heroine's journey, get the female in there, but it really is a soul journey. And what are the expressions or manifestations of your journey? For me, I'll be looking back at thousands of pieces of art. Others might be looking at thousands of pieces of literature. You might be looking at thousands of souls who have incorporated some of the information you're sharing about the galactic and have felt an expansion. So we never know, right, how our gift going out into the world will affect the other, and this ripple effect, until we're on the other side and we actually feel and see, oh, she got out of her way so I could feel her joy in the birth of what you've created or I've created. But it's really just co-creative, right? When we start looking and we start graduating, going, oh, I wasn't alone. Where did I get that thought? Setting up all the star seeds teachable, Julia. Look at you go.
Step by step, little by little. So worth it, wanting to continuously evolve. The best journey ever.
So it's creation. We are creators. And at the highest level, when we are creating, we are in our joy, right? If we allow ourselves to create without the judgment. So that's why bringing our little inner child sometimes into play. And so I'm calling in my little Ursie to sit with me in my heart chakra. And just when I get afraid, let her speak. And so I don't know if you want to do the same thing.
Yes.
Was your name Julie? Did your parents call you Julie?
Juicy.
Juicy. Oh, I love that. Well, we won't tell too many people.
Yeah. Let's do this.
Okay. So I'm gonna share a little slideshow with everybody, and let's see, I think here we go. All right, so the first slide, and here's Julia and I, we're gonna sit up here on top so you can see us. The joy of color. So my background studied painting and drawing, but as a little child, I just got so much reinforcement by being allowed to play with watercolors in a park and getting my painting put in a principal's office. I'll always remember that, how happy the adults were when I played with color that I wasn't seeing. You know, you're supposed to paint the tree. My tree was full of color. So this idea of this joy and expression of color. So about 2011, my husband helped me create a book called Emotion in Motion. So I always seem to need that other person to help bring a baby forward, right? So emotion in motion. I didn't know that title just kind of came in, but this idea of the celebratory, we're all in motion, but I like to play with this idea of color and how it expresses itself in my life. So you're going to see children, mothers, the feminine. That's what I knew. I'm from a family of, 4 sisters, a lot of girls. So it's this idea of celebration of motherhood and the dance of the feminine, emotion in motion. So I had to, here's me with no makeup, staring at the camera, very, very like, okay, I can do this. But it's this wholeness of painting through the energy of Babam. That's when I'm in my most radiant moment. I really understand myself to be a channeler that enjoys just playing with sparks of light and dark. And so this painting is more about me trying to stand tall and just, yes, I know I'm different, but that hermetic wisdom of knowing yourself. And it took me so long to just stop trying to normalize and wear the masks of fitting in.
I love how unafraid you were here to use the darker shades too, and the promise of the bright golden yellow in the background and the wisdom and courage of the blue seeping into your personality. There's so much there that your subconscious is communicating through this art. I love it. It's so profound. Keep
Thank
going.
you. Sometimes people say, oh, do you draw first? Do you have an image? Do you scale? And I say, no, none of that. It really is almost like automatic painting. It's just explosions. And I didn't even know I was coming through. I just saw this as a being. But today, like 10 years later, I can say, yeah, it's this stepping into my full sense of being a human as
Goosebumps.
female.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where you come in, Julia. Like I studied and am a facilitator with what's called the Stargate experience in Mount Shasta. But we'd have these experiences, but I didn't know, well, who is that? And what was that? And positive, negative. So I really wanted to know. So I'm calling out the words galactic co-creation. This is where we sit now in this idea of galactic consciousness, starting to learn about the stars and our star family and galactic heritage. So I just wanted to give a 3-step process to anyone else listening who may also want to step more into their sovereignty as a creator. So what I do first is 1, I align my soul's mission with a loving intention. So this heart, of course, reminds me of Beta Centauri Hadar, the Hadarians, who it's this unconditional lovingness. Can I turn that beam onto myself and just let my inner child play? But it has to start with the soul's mission for me. Like, why am I here? And if I know why I'm here, why am I afraid to share that? So the loving intention, knowing what it is you're going to focus upon. Also within that co-creation, step 2 for me is a beautiful, heartfelt invitation to play. I did this 12 years ago and probably before then without consciously knowing who wants to play with me. I would call out Henri Matisse, some of the painters of joy that I have loved, even Paul Gauguin. Come play with me. Now with the galactic information, Julia, that you've shared with me, I can, as this picture states, bring in my fuller family and my ancestors And the cosmic joke for me as I'm painting, and here's a picture of my studio, is that it's all me. So the person I'm afraid of sometimes is like, oh, who's coming in? Is that Draco, dark energy? I'm like, no, it's all part of me pretending to be that, so that the dark and the light can meet and basically help each other expand. Because if it was all light, there would be no expansion. So just bringing that to the table in art, what am I doing? Double rainbow mandalas. I was tracking the rainbow light body, having traveled with William Henry, one of those ancient alien guides. He's a fabulous teacher.
Don't go to the next one just yet.
Okay.
I want to ask you. I want to ask
You can see
you.
I'm trying to speed through.
Yes, big time. Do you know approximately the time difference between these two paintings? So the one on the right, oh my goodness, such a profound capture.
This
And
one, yeah,
and no, the one that we were on just now.
right here. Okay.
Yes. So the soul that is now accepting help and healing from the collective. How long ago was when you painted that? And then how long ago when you started doing mandalas and sacred geometry? Would there be like 5-10 years difference between them?
So that's a funny story. So, having had my training and then having a huge explosion in the career of being a fine art painter in probably 11 galleries nationwide, I basically died after I was given like a spotlight by the Museum of Modern Art's previous curator from New York. His name is Dr. Peter Seltz. And so that story put me in his autobiography as one of the 2 artists to watch in the country. When that happened, I froze and I let myself die because I didn't want that. I didn't want that light. And so this death and then rebirth, the timeline was when my mother died. Interesting, right? I started working on mandalas to help the community. She was a teacher, so I wanted to help bring something to my local community. So a lot of seniors would come and I would say, hey, let's work on mandalas, thinking it was just crafty, artsy, kind of bohemian, right? But when you started studying the science of geometry, as I was coming back to life, this is what brought me through. So then my father died. There are these pivotal moments on my timeline. So to answer your question, after the 2012 shift is when the mandalas came. Where I was before was more in the human pathos, slugging it out like the heroic artist alone in your studio, painting upright with easels and slapping the paint. That's my training. That's how artists were supposed to struggle and fierce and by yourself. And instead, the mandalas called out community, and they called out a collective agreement that, wow, I don't know what's in that geometry, but it feels good. Many people start with the flower of life, but this play and with a group of others. And it's okay if some people drifted off or never came back, but the ones who were core, there became this resonance of like this greater than the soul, one person. And I feel that same kind of resonance as you started up with this Facebook group that you and Anne Marie and I were kind of like, hey, let's try that. So it's this invitation to play with a fuller team.
The sacred geometry that is at the center of your art, of the mandalas, it's a fruit of life. Am I correct?
What's that?
There is a flower, seed of life, flower of life, tree of life, and this is called the fruit of life. Am I correct?
It includes all of them. It includes the tree of life. It's the 64-point star tetrahedron. It's a unity grid. So all of creation is held within that. And I think that's why I'm so drawn. It's like, wow. And if you look carefully, it is the flower of life, but with angles. So it's the masculine equivalent of what the geometry that you love, the flower of life. So all of creation is held in that one geometry. It's like the key to this universe. It's like, oh, creation key. So
you're good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Here we go. So the third thing with galactic co-creation, again, any creative person, whether it's making food or painting, etc., is to really understand how to learn to wait for clarity on our 3D timeline. And Julia, we're talking about this and allowing for the flow. So there's times where you have to go inward and wondering, why am I stuck? Is it an artist block? No, you're just in this receptive, nourishment, exploration, R&D, research and development. But when it's time to go out, is there a response to the need of the greater collective? This is so key with someone like myself who has a 12th house sun. I'm designed to help support this transpersonal aspect, but I also invite anyone who also hears this, when the collective is so hungry and this prayer goes out in divine timing, it is answered. It's answered when crystals are discovered, or plant medicines, or new stars, new galaxies, new, like the Shapley attractor. So watching on the timeline, but having clarity, like this Mayan calendar and the flow of the river. This is a Mount Shasta river. I happen to have Eridanus in my chart conjoining Neptune. So knowing correct timing. And you've given me language, Julia, to understand this is why I feel the way I do. It just comes front of the brain and says, I see the data point that makes me be me. And so I don't have to keep comparing myself to others. I just kind of stay in my lane. Divine timing, let's say.
I love it.
So before we get into some of my paintings, I just wanted to talk about dancing with the full spectrum of color. And so, Julia, in your class, you do share with us and talk with us about frequency, the visible spectrum. And then here are the 7 chakras. We know that our chakras and our multidimensional sense organs are shifting. There's an evolutionary process. And I know Richard Rudd with the Gene Keys is talking about this mutation of our chakras, not just for humans, but all living beings, including animals and plants. So it's fascinating, though, to kind of just still stick with this is the way we look with the root chakra up. And so I've got a picture of all the paint that I bring out in my studio, working with the full spectrum. Now I'm starting to embody it and start tuning into various chakras to say, oh, who wants to play, but where are you in my body? And then looking at my galactic soul connections using the calculator on galacticastrochart.com. So it's kind of like, do you see all the dovetailing? And before I get to the paintings too, I just want to give a shout out to you, Julia. Your class really helped underscore the value of Lisa Royal Holt's contribution with her channeling through of the work of the Prism of Lyra, so we could better understand our galactic heritage. So thinking of ourselves as part of that prism of the light of source creation flowing through us, and understanding that as we look galactically, these stories, we could see, yes, good guy, bad guy. Oh, what were the lessons learned? But finding out that we were all part in exchanging roles in that galactic history, that helped me see things. And I'm so glad you share so many books in your course material, Julia, but this one in particular is foundational.
Absolutely. With the previous slide, if I may, I just want to add the tonality of it as well for any musicians here, anyone with the, strong musical ear. These colors are connected to certain sound frequency too. So there are certain people, and there's a name for it, I apologize, I can't think of it now, who see music in color. When they hear a sound, they immediately see a color as well. And the colors that they all see with the same tone, it's universal. Like, so 10 people who have this condition, their brain is wired this way, they will all see the same color with the same tone without knowing what the others are seeing. So it's universally recognized. It's so fascinating. So I feel it's such a powerful tool for healing and rebalancing anything that is out of balance, and it was so wonderful in our recent class inside the course on dowsing using pendulum, where we can ask our divine intelligence of our body, our higher selves, what is out of balance and what color would be most appropriate for me to work with today or this week to restore balance and harmony or enhance my well-being. And hand in hand goes tone, sound. So if you know, you can just Google color spectrum and sound frequency, and there's plenty of really beautifully done visuals on which tone aligns with which color. So you can also enhance you working with the color visually, but also adding the music, the frequency of sound to it, and then it's going to be so powerful.
That's so beautiful, because it does seem like science and spirituality are meeting up with one another, so that we find that everything is vibration, and sound, number, and light. You know, these are the three predominant ways that I've found that the universe speaks to each of us. So it's beautiful to tone and get yourself into alignment or attunement. So I love that. And just wait, because we're going to come back to these chakras to talk about more galactic frequency and resonance here. I just wanted to say, this is at the very top, that alien being holding a child with yellow. And there's this cord, this beautiful, like a DNA Kundalini cord to Earth. That was on the cover of Lisa's first book, The Prism of Lyra, before the revised edition came with the baby with Earth. So I think that's very fascinating, right? That it was first coming out with, we are more than being human here on Earth. Well, this is the first chakra where, Julia, I'm hoping we can just play with each of the seven. I just tuned into, okay, who's at that red root chakra? And I found the beautiful sacred geometry that resonates at our root, that connects us to our earth chakra. You know, so at the red root, fire, passion, we're connected with our soul tribe. I found this image of the Orions with all that red around them. And this is some stars and the connection, of course, to Orion, to the pyramids. But I'd love to pause here as far as if you're tuning into any galactic connections, either scoring Orion or bringing in others. I'll just pause for your commentary here.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to encourage people when they start working with galactic astrology to get a sense of what color is coming through with the frequency of any star nation that they are curious about or connecting with consciously. And it's so interesting with Orion. I chose red unconsciously, I suppose, too, when we were selecting the color coding for our free calculator on galacticastrochart.com. Orion was marked with red too. And I just want to preface before we go further with these galactic star nations and their association with certain colors, is that I believe that each star system has the full spectrum, of course, because it's the holographic, you know, fragmented universe. So there has to be the full spectrum of colors available. But what we are receiving or connecting or responding to the most at this time of our human history, I feel we are receiving certain color as dominant for certain star systems. At least that's what it seems to be when working with hundreds upon hundreds of people, and when I was kind of sensitive to these colors coming through. So it would be interesting for the viewers when they connect with the Orion, whether it's through their own soul DNA or through people that come into their life that have strong Orion stars in their charts. Can they sense that strong red frequency that is such a powerful life invigorating, if that's a word, color? So
yeah, Orion. You know, I think what's coming through too, Julia, is that this is the root. This is our tribe. This is the blood, our bloodline. This is oftentimes where we do have most conflict because, you know, it's family, but learning how to look and work with the transcended Orion. We don't have to keep the Orion star family, as you're saying, in that battle, in that conflict, but we can embrace the good and greet the transcended side. You know, another star that wants to be stated is Antares in Scorpius. So this idea
Very
of
good.
powerful red.
May I just say what's coming through when I observe my husband Mark doing Reiki sessions, and when different color rays come through to support each client in their own unique way, and whenever red comes through during the client session, they usually have naturally something to be healed or clear within their root chakra. But the feedback that comes through that ray is that it helps us, or it can help us with grounding, healing any blocks in connection to our ancestors. And when we have blocks related to security, survival, those kinds of issues, when we work with red, we can heal that. We can restore our sense of security and safety on almost like instinctual level. So we shift from survival mode to more like thriving and creating from a place of prosperity and abundance. So it can be very powerful and or empowering color.
I love this conversation. And I think the Orion star family is also saying, look, if you're having trouble at your root chakra, and I'm hearing like prostate issues, very base of the root, call in the red star families to help guide and help work with you to clear that chakra. It's all energy, but it's kind of nice to make that connection for healing with specific star families that may, what are you repressing? What are you fighting about? Can we make that block known, embrace it, and let it go through? I mean, energetic.
If I may, one more addition.
You bet.
About healthy anger expression. I'm so glad some of the influencers online are starting to talk about the importance of healthy anger expression, because there's a lot of shadow or really negative association with anger, to the point of completely blocking it in the light workers community, in the spiritual communities. Anger is bad, but there is healthy expression of energy that needs to be expressed in order to express your healthy boundaries, or in order to let it be known what is important to you. It has so many, positive uses. When it's used in a healthy way, it can be very good. So again, red can help with that. Do you agree?
I do. And so it's this idea, because a lot of times cancer is, what are we holding in and repressing? We're not allowed to speak but do it in a healthy way, a healthy boundary. So when we greet Orion, if you choose to, through your red root chakra, just know that it's this embracing of allowing for clearing, and then embracing of the life, the clean blood, the clearing of the bloodline. I mean, I think by healing yourself, would you agree, Julia? It is now the ancestral tree, backwards, current, and forwards on the timeline. So we're healing not just ourselves, but our family. Okay, well, here's how I worked with, this is older work, this idea of where was the root chakra coming in for me. This is called blended family. I'm part of a blended family, and there was a lot of turbulence and a lot of guilt I had to get through to allow myself to embrace. This is choosing love and love of self, even though it's not of the norm at that time. So working it through in paint, and then also working through, this is called jig of joy, to this idea that even though there's red and angry family people on the corner, I'm going to do my own dance. And I'm just now looking at these paintings with fresh eyes and saying, oh, that's what it was about, to be mirrored into your own, like sitting well with what you see, jig of joy. But that tribe, it's like, okay, that's you, that's not me, and I'm okay just being me.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that was like a little bit of an art historical review. Now we're on the second chakra, the sacral chakra. This is the beautiful geometry of, and working with the color orange. Orange is yellow and red mixed together. So it's really combining the third and the first. It is our creativity center, the womb. So the star family that wanted to come forward here is Arcturus. And we know that Arcturus is also high vibe, indigo, blues, etc. But they really wanted to shine their golden light. And gold has that connection to orange. So I'd love to hear from you, Julia, as far as Arcturian light as it relates to the creation, like the womb, the
Yes,
belly.
I am so glad that you aligned this with orange, because orange healing ray is best for emotional healing support. And Arcturians, as we know, they are masters at supporting our emotional body healing. So I think it's so fitting. And of course, the golden frequency comes through it, and naturally purple too, because the sacral chakra is strongly linked, well, to the third eye, indigo, purple. Like you get into that spectrum, like when you transmute the creative idea in your sacral chakra as you move it through the column of your energetical highway, bring it to the third eye and to the crown. It's manifest. So these colors kind of work together, but definitely the orange, I would associate it strongly with the emotional healing. I believe Lisa Royal-Holt also talks about the Arcturians being powerful supporters for our entire collective in terms of healing the emotional body.
Yeah, in fact, I read recently that she said that it's the Arcturians that really are the first ones to help oversee Earth and humanity. So later others came, but that Arcturian light that Cryon talks about were kissed at birth, physical birth, by the Arcturian light. And then as we go into the veil and drop our skins, we're kissed again. So they're really holding this light frequency. So when you check your soul connections, if you have a connection to Boots constellation, to Arcturus, the Pathfinder, perhaps this will light something up for you. It's a beautiful light. When they say go to the light, they're talking about the Arcturian light, is what I was getting.
And isn't it interesting, when our emotional body is healed and well, we feel free to create something beautiful in this world, something joyful. So sacral chakra connected to the creative, as a creative energy center. When that is all well and open and balanced, you feel naturally inspired to create in the world. So such an important connection too.
I love that. And I think when looking at what Richard Rudd talks about, he's like, rub your belly, that soft belly, that belly that you fought and you've probably thought so many negative things. This is the source of creation, this belly, this womb, right? So that belly energy, and a little bit higher than the belly, of course, is the Tantien that connects us, to all of ourselves, all of life. And so I love that idea of emotional healing. Maybe go put on orange or embrace the gold light if orange is a little too strong for you. Okay, and I just found these images doing a Google search on imagery. Here's where, for me as a painter, this is a very early piece of a Madonna and Child, but I felt that Arcturian light, this idea of mother, co-creator, matriarchy, there was a time when we celebrated being mother. We didn't so emphasize on, the tone abs and making sure, you go get a nip and tuck after a baby. It's like, what? So it's this full embrace of creation, Madonna and Child, and the history of that particular profound message. And then, of course, Julia, as you'll find in teenagehood, I did this painting called The Talk. And so you can see this red orange coming back in, help me understand, but it's tribal, right? It's still with the emotions coming through. So there's orange in this piece, but it's this idea of navigating all of the emotions through all of our relationships that we oftentimes hold in the belly of the body.
Oh, I love that piece.
The talk, not the talk. This is fun. Okay, so then I looked at the yellow solar plexus. So when you go under your rib cage, the point where they meet, maybe a little bit lower, is the solar plexus chakra. And you can see the beautiful image for that. For me, this yellow is connecting into Lyra. I chose Lyra, or at least they told me to choose Lyra, because it's this I am. This is like that part where you really know who I am. And so that prism, right, that clear prism that the light goes through, to me, and I brought back the Prism of Lyra's first book cover, the yellow is there. Who are you? I mean, do you really know who you are without all those projections of other people on you? So it's this deep embrace. And then, of course, that Lyran calling in the wisdom of the ancient galactic heritage and all the Lyran beings. I just put a lioness up there just to say, do you have the courage to be who you are? Truly who you are, all of you. Are you holding anything of yourself back?
I love that. And with that beautiful color comes the sense of when you know you are free to live in the world, to celebrate just being conscious and alive and able to experience the world. And I feel Lyrans really represent that. I mean, they really ventured across the cosmos to so many different places. Yeah, amazing color.
I love that, how yellow can just help you with your own identity. So
And uplifting, and also helps with the positive mindset. Again, I'm recalling Marek's Reiki sessions. People who would have depression or anxiety, yellow ray comes always through for their sessions, and it's just an upliftment of mental state and attitude, and suddenly you feel more hopeful, more inspired to see the bright side of things. So
I love that. I love how you're bringing in Marek's Reiki work, because if you think of the first three chakras, we're talking red for the tribe and ancestors, our foundation. So red, do we get along? And then you went into the second chakra of emotions, that orange. And now we're in the third chakra of the mind, our thoughts. Do we struggle with depression because we're not allowing ourselves to be who we truly are? Are we repressing our identity? And I think it's these first three chakras, Julia, that many of us continue to get stuck in. So we want to go high vibe, we want to get up there. And yet these three, I think, are foundational before we get to the next chakra.
I love it. And I love how you connected the galactic to it with the Orion, then the Arcturus and the Lyran. It makes so much sense. I associate Lyrans with so much of the physical, of the mental creator process. Oh, excellent.
Oh,
Let's keep going.
Thank you. Because I know. So I just kind of did this working with like, oh, well, let's just play with what comes through. In my older work, my paintings, or at least on the timeline. So early morning confidence. I didn't realize how much yellow I was bringing out there. Can you stand in your bathing suit with a hat, and that pose for women, hands on the hip? Like, it's just me. It's all me. Yeah. And I got to tell you,
take it or leave it.
Without judgment. Just, it's me. Hello, it's me. And letting yourself be you, not anyone else. So this came much later when I was working with just emotional abstractions, letting the joy and the dance, this jig and celebration of color. There's a winged being coming in as like this figure's naked, can you dance with abandon without anyone watching or caring if anyone watches? It's been my struggle. And this is more of a transcended Ursula, to start really engaging with the transformation of the butterfly, right? And letting the wings spread, letting that center of this very specific geometry of the Osirian divine temple in Abydos. It's a creation attuned and light coded geometry, but yellow. My mind, I can double Virgo. Yeah, we could just get stuck in the earth with this mental paralysis, analysis paralysis. And yet here we are. So I know that I can call in my Lyran family to say, hey, help me clear. Okay, Julia, here we are in the Pleiadian green heart chakra. As you know, there's so many that could be green, the heart, that beautiful, you call out Regulus, the royal star Regulus as leadership through the heart, the Hadarians, again, unconditional love, the heart. And whenever I see the flower of life, though, I always associate it with you. And so I just wanted to call out this idea of the Pleiadian star sisters, the mother, and Atlas. It's interesting, right? Holding up the earth, Atlas, the father of the Pleiadian star sisters. Like, how does that inform the heart chakra? It's a specific green too. Wouldn't you say it's green? And then it can also be pink, higher level pink, but it's this healing. It's the early spring green, that yellow green. So as a painter, we know cold, dark green to lighter yellow green. So green that bends towards blue versus yellow. This is one that's life. It's the young plant trying to, grow in the sunlight.
Really good. I feel Pleiadian as turquoise. It's always kind of blending with blue, so green, blue, that pink there too. It's such a powerful color. Like wherever I see that color, I like, that's my color. I love that color. But with this frequency, it's about cellular healing. If you work with this color, I feel it's really good for our bodies on a cellular level. And I think it's so interesting that Barbara Marciniak, and in her teachings about coming through Pleiadians as her channelings, there's a lot of information there, like even technical information and practical information about healing our physical bodies, working with the DNA, working with the cellular structure in order to enhance our experience of life and connecting to much greater aspects of creation. So very powerful and beautiful, beautiful color.
Yeah, I love that you relate to the more teal or turquoise. You wear that oftentimes too on your shirt. It is that the heart and the throat chakra sometimes. So it's this rising. So there's many variations of green, but in the image that I found, they get the blue and the green, but the Pleiadian star mothers, working with our human DNA along with the Sirians and our Lyran family and Arcturians. So I chose the foundational ones that were so connected to us in our creation.
I find it so interesting that the Pleiadians, as they communicate and as they connect to others, their natural signature is to give second chances, or to be very understanding, to know that, okay, we all can change. Like, we are all on a journey of evolution and transformation, and they are always holding hope for people to change towards greater love, unity, harmony, co-creation, cooperation. It's not easy when you are dealing with certain character type where different rules apply altogether, but it's such a beautiful gift that Pleiadians have this beautiful compassionate ability to support us even through our darker times, and hold space patiently, and then kind of calling us into higher vibration, higher experience, higher expression. So, and in terms of the turquoise or tail color, I believe there is a higher chakra center, which is just between the heart center, heart chakra, and the throat chakra, so kind of up here. And that feels beautiful turquoise. And there is an interesting phenomenon happening, which I would actually like to bring out and see if other Reiki practitioners or energy healing practitioners starting to notice. In the last maybe only 2 months or so, people, at least, I'm sorry, I don't mean to promote Marek's work at all. I'm talking about just Reiki or energy healers in general. What he started noticing is that people he's not shown the individual chakras and is not guided to work on them individually, not for everyone, for like 10% of clients, but instead they just have this beautiful higher heart chakra that that creates like this beautiful light energy bubble around them, and he just works with them as a whole. I've read about this long time ago. Somebody was talking about us transitioning as we go to the higher frequency to eventually not operate from individual chakras, but integrate everything and become like one whole being. And it seems to be happening with people here and there. So I'm just curious if anyone out there has this experience. It would be nice to get a validation from someone else. So higher heart space connects us to all that is in a beautiful way.
I love that you're bringing in Marek and his work, because, you know, to be able to have that psychic sight, to attune to energy and color, I think it helps inform anyone listening. So the heart chakra, I have a question for you, Julia. So here we are, the heart chakra. For those like Pleiadians, it's been a journey about understanding boundaries, right? You just want to give and love and give and become sometimes, unfortunately, a doormat where people take advantage of you. So I know at Yale University, they're tracking those with heart disease, heart issues, that oftentimes there's this, you don't hold your boundary. And so it just it erupts later. So instead of like cancer that holds in and represses, this is what Yale is tracking. So I'm wondering if the Pleiadians trying to learn boundaries, if Marek has seen anything like with heart issues, because I know heart disease is still a very strong thing on our collective, for as far as diseases. Any comment there as far as heart issues?
Well, it's not a unique attraction point for him, but from those that would have been there is always, so he would see it as a block in the energy space of the heart chakra if there is a heart connection. So now that I recall, he's not told in advance what the issues are. So when he feels that the most healing is coming to the heart space, and then when he offers that feedback, they would have said, I have inherited a hard issue from my mother, and I needed an operation. And yes, there is an issue with my heart. So he would just pick up on it energetically that there is a block, or he would feel tightness in his chest, and then more energy healing is going there. So I'm sure there is a connection. But while you brought that, there is an amazing research now ongoing with people who have cancer. And when they look at their behavioral patterns, they're noticing that people who are extremely giving and they truly have no boundaries, they don't know how to say no, they'll show up for work even when they're unwell, they tend to die younger and develop all kinds of issues physically, because they don't know how to healthily express their boundaries and how to take care of themselves. They just keep taking care of everyone else's needs. So I only watched it recently, so I'm pretty sure I can find a link to that. Excellent presentation with lots of science behind it. So hopefully that'll help someone shift their behavioral pattern, which is usually copied from previous generations, from early childhood.
Yes. Yes.
So
in fact, gosh, what we're just doing just now, working with this beautiful nest with, it feels like we're really calling out. It's not just learning about the Pleiadian star families of, oh, isn't that interesting? But learning who to call in, perhaps if it feels right for you, if you have a particular heart issue, to call in a Pleiadian star family to help bring you into alignment. And if you follow the work of scientist Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Our Belief, he was tracking that it's not necessarily genetic that you're getting that heart disease. What's happening is your mother taught you to scream, and now you're a screamer, and you taught your children how to scream, and all that screaming, your heart is hearing, and it's just like, so with the Pleiadian, it's learning how to have appropriate boundaries and the timing to say, that doesn't feel right. No, stop, but not screaming level. So we're just playing with these narratives and stories, but I love how now perhaps we can maybe call in star families to say, okay, guide and teach me. I invite you in, because they won't come in unless you have the invitation, right? So, wow, for healing. Okay. Well, and then here's what I did as far as I'm not actually creating paintings anymore. With this shift into the sacred geometry, I was told very specifically, these are healing transmitters. So I think it's interesting that you and I are talking now about healing as a transmission of engagement. So the viewer, for me, look at all that light green around the red. It's really asking Archangel Raphael to come in and remind my body, not even my mind, just it'll just be through like this painting is imbued with this activation. And behind each of these paintings, there are two archangels carrying light and support. So this is a different way to show up in painting. I don't know if anyone else doing this, but I just hold this idea that I'm coming out of my fear of sharing that which I've already been doing for a while, just creating healing transmitters, right? To help support anyone who chooses it. And it doesn't even have to be the physical painting. It can be just a screenshot or this intention. All right, Julia, moving to the blue throat chakra. I guess it's no accident that I chose to wear blue today so that when it comes to speaking, I would try and get out of the way to allow for this wisdom to kind of move through me. So the blue throat chakra, I was guided to look very closely at the Sirian star family. Now, interestingly enough, when you look in the physical world, at the brightest star in the heavens, Sirius A, it projects as a blue-white star. But our eyes are deceiving because as you know, Julia, we don't see the full spectrum. There's oftentimes infrared, ultraviolet colors. But for this, we're just looking at calling in this beautiful blue, and it's different than indigo. It's like a royal blue, where the Sirian star family that agreed to work with our DNA to create us in balance, chose geometry, music, sound, the pyramids. And so this image of the geometries and the ley lines within the earth, above the earth, and then galactically. They're just asking me to bring that in through this beautiful color blue and that geometry of the throat chakra.
Really good. Syrians come through as teachers. I so many people that I've met who have strong Syrian alignments in their chart. They feel strong calling to absorb as much information as possible so they can become confident in becoming then transmitters or delivering teaching of information that supports the evolution of human consciousness. Another star that I feel strong association with blue is Aldebaran in Taurus constellation, the royal star connected with Archangel Michael. That so not only about communication but also courage, sovereignty, truth. Beautiful. And certainly for people who have trouble communicating for whatever reasons, working with blue, applying blue, and bringing it into their environment can be very beneficial, right?
Right. And I'm getting, when you allow to speak your full truth, you open up that chakra. When you continue to repress it and push it down, areas of the throat chakra just they shove it down. So I know some people have trouble with the thyroid. Some people have, like, even neck, I think, is associated with this whole area, because this chakra, it doesn't go like in the front and the backs, like horizontal. It's more up like this. So this idea of, okay, how to work with either Archangel Michael through the royal star Aldebaran or the Syrians. When you have,
I'm sorry for interrupting.
Oh, go ahead.
I recall the QHHT sessions, hypnotic regression sessions, whenever people had actually physical pain in their neck, the higher selves would always say, who is the pain in the neck in your life? So, and they would identify, usually it was on the right side, it was a male person. If it was on the left side pain, it was the female, usually within their immediate family. And it was all about them not actually speaking out the truth. They were letting the people, nagging them, annoying them, misusing them, and they were not expressing their healthy boundaries. So it was about the throat chakra healing from back and front. So yeah, you pointed it right.
It's amazing. I have books on the personal aura and the language of color and light. And then I have Barbara Brennan's Hands of Light books, and I have the glyphs of other teachers. But when you think of the Sirians and the support of our DNA, that geometry is really calling itself out. Like, I think our collective will get to a point where we will be meditating on specific geometries to help remind us of our wholeness. So in the body, but also outward, where these galactic star systems have very specific geometries to identify with. In fact, what is our astrology? Our natal chart is nothing but an indicator of the geometry. I like to say shining through our heart chakra as an identifier of us in 3D. So all that geometry and the language of it, if you choose to call in your Sirian star family members and wear blue, blue candles, blue to help support that. But, imagine, before we go on, imagine what life would be like if we all spoke and sang our true song, like the song of our heart. It reminds me of those penguins, they're supposed to find their song and one's like, ah, ah, it's like, what is it? What would it feel like as an orchestra to have all of us, especially those who are awake and maybe listening to this? What if you sang your own song fully with abandon and opened up that beautiful throat chakra? It's kind of an image in my mind. So here's Archangel Michael. You spoke of Michael. Now, this is more that tealy color, right, that you were talking about too. But this image wanted to be shown as a way of saying, yeah, it's not a complete circle. It's like an orb that's moving, but it's a unity grid mandala with Michael to help remind us of speaking our truth.
Stunning.
Okay, speaking our truth. Okay, this was a funny picture of me, but I have to tell you, it might look easy to do, but I helped co-create this ascension playground with two of my friends. And then their life became too busy where it was just me as the ascension playground. This was before I met you, Julia, briefly. And now all I do is talk about galactic astrology and joy and the people we're meeting and healing. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for partnering with me over this last year and a half, 2 years. But it took a lot for me to come out of the shadows because I'm supposed to be a certain something to other people. But, when my father passed, I said the gift he gave me was to speak. And he helped me as I was going into theater and on the stage. So what gift could I give Dad upon his leaving on January 6th? Is the Ascension Playground. Maybe not the content that my Catholic father would have preferred, but it's me speaking and engaging. And since I've done this, I have met the most amazing people, and I'm so happy that I almost don't even mind. I don't know. This is me trying to say, it's me, take it or leave it.
I love it. Can I just pause there? And I'm so glad you've mentioned that you had experience theater. Was there anything else where you were kind of on stage or speaking in front of many in your school years?
I did like leadership as the president, ASB. I could get in front of the microphone.
That's so interesting. I really just want to point that out for anyone who have had those experiences, whether primary, secondary school, college years, at any point where kind of life brought you to the center stage. And then in your teenage years or early adulthood, life happened and you kind of closed off and you are not a speaker, communicator, leader, guide. Remember those life's preparations. You're meant to be out there talking, sharing your perspective. Like life was grooming you all along throughout your childhood to prepare you for your mission in your adulthood. So in case you're hiding right now and you recall that you had, because there's a whole class and there's only a selected few in that class that make it to the front and center. And there is a reason for it. There is a divine grooming of leaders, of speakers happening in schools. It's divine orchestration, I promise you. And in case you're hiding now, you gotta get out. You have to find a way. You have to find someone perhaps that can hold space for you, like I do for Ursula here now, that can help you come out, because you will never look back. You're meant to be there. It's your nature. You just need to deal with things that are blocking it. But once you come out, that you will be such a gift to this world. So I want to thank you, Ursula, for finding courage, and finally you're here. And we love you.
Well, thank you. I had to really trick myself. I trick myself a lot. Like when I don't feel like painting, I say, I'm just going to go in the garage and just start moving things around. And suddenly I'm painting. With the Ascension Playground, I'm like, okay, I'll do this until it's no more fun. And so when my friends started dropping off, I'm like, okay, the question is, how has the universe responded when I came out and stopped hiding? And that answers everything. So you're on the perfect path when you ask that question. And how has the universe responded? Have all the doors opened? Are you having fun? Or have all the doors shut? So I just use that as my discernment factor, because I'm at a stage in life where if it's not fun, I'm just not doing it. So that's an agreement I made with myself, and in the joy of sharing.
That's a brilliant tip. How can you trick yourself into doing it?
Oh yeah, because my mind is like, shouldn't I be selling paintings? Shouldn't I be going after more galleries? Like, no, I just want to be here. Well, speaking of which, now we're landing at the third eye. This color is indigo. So if you're new to color, blue that we just saw, that beautiful, like a cerulean blue, we've now moved into the red zone of it's blue that has more violet in it. And so indigo, the third eye chakra. I mean, this is the marker. So some would say, well, isn't that Sirius A? And I'd be like, yeah, that too, right? It's here. It's the geometry. It's how to open up that pineal to have greater awareness. And the galactic fits in perfectly, because when you start seeing, I'm not just a being here on Earth with one 3D lifetime, but that I'm multidimensional. And what does that mean, multidimensional? You mean I have me in other parts on other places, and holding into this idea of this merging of your higher self with your third dimensional self. This is part of our evolution, is what I found. So who is there to help? This was a surprise. I was telling Julia earlier that Nihal, associating itself with the indigo stars, the ones that have come forward, the blueprinters, the star seeds that are like, hey, it's time. Who needs help opening their third eye? We're here. I'm going to pause there to allow you, Julia, to.
Yeah, I just realized I was reflecting why the Indigos generation that started coming in from 70s through 80s, 90s, they don't like being told what to do. And the reason being, if their soul essence, if their most dominant soul frequency is indigo, it means they are coming equipped with knowing what to do from within their own being through aeons of experiences, perhaps in other star systems, other incarnations. So they came with a blueprint, with a plan to support a new Earth's development that are for the benefit of all, that are in harmony with Earth, that in harmony with cosmos. So when you activate that frequency within your being, as you paint with it, as you play with it, you may find yourself suddenly actually realizing, okay, I know what to do. I can do this. I can do that. You feel like you can just act on immediate inspirations that come through life and get things done and fulfill whatever needs to be done in your immediate experience. Would you agree?
Yeah, I love that. And they're showing me, like, here's the crown chakra and here's the throat. And so it's this merging. So don't tell me what to do. I'm on a different navigational system, right? Like, I am seeing what you don't even see. And I love that it's coming, Nihal is coming from the constellation of the rabbit. So this one that likes to go down rabbit holes, this multidimensional rabbit holes. So if you're listening, if you're still listening, and you see Nihal, or you align with the indigos, Julia, you mentioned on the timeline, 70s, 80s, 90s. So it's the collective was ready for you to come if you are one of those indigo star seeds. We need this navigational device that is not in the mundane world, not operating from the first three chakras of, root and emotions and mind. We're trying to get up higher. So I think you're right. The need was heard, and you came to answer a call. So, wow, what a different way to see. I mean,
yeah, totally. Like it makes so much sense if, based on the existing old structures, things were going downhill fast. So we needed someone who sees beyond all that conditioning and they're like, no, we are not going to accept that conditioning. There is a better way and we are here to deliver it. So go Indigos.
yeah, go Indigos, because from Indigo, then what, rainbow and crystal. So do you see this evolution of children coming in? And I just wanted to
Well,
show you this.
it actually feels like Indigos are here to actually hold space. Like, you guys stop telling us what to do. We are going to hold the ground, strongly holding safe space for diamond and rainbow and crystal, rainbow, diamond children to actually deliver the promise of the golden age.
Yes. Oh, and they're actually showing me beyond those that you just mentioned, those super cosmic points are like, and then there's more. So it's this unfolding story. Yeah, don't tell me what to do. So if you consider yourself indigo, let's just say, what do you do with that? Learn more. There's that color. Have the color and the star families inform you for this beautiful sacred site. I feel like it's multidimensional, that's connecting us with so much more that is. But when we try and use these eyes, it's just limiting. So, oh, and they're telling me, back to Sirius, with music and the geometry, it's like, oh, open your third ear. It's like, wow. So this idea of more opening. So I just wanted to share this geometry then places in this idea of fractality, if that's a word, that the fractal nature of the five, the penta, so two pentagons with an exterior of a six, hexa, penta, coming together. 5 and 6 show up so much in the building blocks of being human. So yes, we want that third sight, but we're in this corporal body, right? And so it's like how to work and toggle between I see and I know and I experience and I dream, but how do I bring it into the body?
Amazing painting.
Thank you. But you see, it's becoming non-figurative, right? Like the more I went in, it was like, this is what wanted to come through. And so I stopped judging myself as an artist, saying, why aren't you staying in the figurative bucket? Okay, now you're in the abstract emotional bucket. But then now you're doing geometries. But it helped me see I was painting up through my own chakras. And that was a highlight that they just told me this morning. Ursula, you're on your own evolutionary journey. So as you paint and allow yourself to paint where you are, you're painting where you are, and that it like a toroid, that it'll come back around, but the figures I'll paint later will have been another way of seeing. Interesting, as we were talking about the third eye.
Amazing.
Now we're on that violet, beautiful crown chakra. Whoa, Julia.
Wow.
Oh, so of course the purple people, right? This is an easy one. Andromeda. Thank you. I mean, we know that our Milky Way galaxy and the Andromeda galaxy, the mother galaxy from Andromeda, birthed us, and then soon the child will want to go back to the mother for another kind of experience and expansion. But today, look at Vashta.com, look at her beautiful images they're the most beautiful of when people have alien sightings. But this high frequency, high vibe, violet as a color, it's like no accident that they're showing up for us in this particular color spectrum, and then beyond probably as well.
Oh, absolutely. I really just want to highlight here that I believe the star beings can come true with any color of the full spectrum in their transmission. Depends on what they are delivering and who they're delivering to and at what time of their life. They can come through different colors. So I really want to encourage everyone to tune in through their own kind of neutral perspective, allowing the unique experience with each individual race to occur for them. You don't have to take what we are presenting here as a square box that you stay stuck with. Andromedans, absolutely, I would always feel them with this and almost like a diamond, just kind of like the background there that Vashta is bringing through her art. But such wisdom. I could see this violet color also coming through the Arcturians, Sirians, all the royal stars. Like you can really connect colors, I would say, depending on the message and the situation and what is coming through in any given moment. So allow for the full spectrum to play with you through different star systems. But we could say that there is like a predominant color through experiences of many that we can align with what we're presenting here today. Would you agree?
I would. I mean, some of my friends choose to have purple hair. And so when you do or purple everywhere, purple, all shades of purple. And so you do their soul connections and look at the galacticastrochart.com. And it's like, wow, look at all the Andromedan soul connections. You wonder why. So you're right. These are just like little basic play toys. Your own experience is much more valuable than these kind of like little mini cue cards. But isn't it interesting though, when you find that correlation towards, oh, I love this color. Why is this color something that I always choose in my wardrobe? And then you go look at your galactic soul connections. It's like, oh, well, maybe that's why. So it's this idea of here's linearity and then here's quantum. And I think what you're sharing, Julia, is more of a quantum experience. This Andromedan star family, they can show up in any which way. They can shift to any color on the spectrum. However, in linearity, it's like in 3D, maybe they just show up a little bit more sometimes and give us clues. I don't know. So, but it's this invitation for like, why is this crown chakra violet? Why? And then you read with Lisa Royal Holt and the whole story of Andromeda, freedom before oxygen. That's one story, and then there's the galactic heritage with Andromeda. So it's just looking at this whole new way to kind of define, well, who am I and what stories do I want to pick up? Which ones ring true? Even if they're a little bit like, that's far out. But maybe it's the future saying, hey, sit with me here. So can I just ask, with Reiki and the crown chakra, someone having issues here, would they have trouble like not grounding, like not being present? Like I'm always like gone.
Yeah, there would be a connection. Yeah, absolutely. Be grounded, but not really feeling connected to the intuition and to the non-physical world at all. Those people that come with kind of blocked. And usually it's people who are referred to him for sessions. They wouldn't even think about booking a Reiki session, but their family members care and they book for them. And then you would see the crown chakra blocked. And in their life experience, they don't really ponder the meaning of universe or cosmos. They're very much in the here and now and very limited in their experience based on the conditioning that they accepted unconsciously first. So once you start working with the crown chakra, then they suddenly start realizing that there is a choice and they can make a conscious decision about A, B, or C.
That's interesting. Maybe, how does this sound? Some people that I've met they just can't wait to get out of here. They're like, oh, this is my last lifetime here on Earth for sure. I only want to go home. And so this block may have been like, it's just too much. I'm just gonna, I turned it off when I was a kid because it was just too much. So do those two stories, how do those feel when it comes to the crown chakra? Like always wanting to leave, or like,
the paradoxes or the extremes of perspective. So what you're sharing there, yes, absolutely, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because it's too painful to keep it open, because then from that unhealthy perspective that is perceiving this as wrong and unpleasant and the other worlds as ideal, because there is no contrast challenge or polarity challenge, but it's an unhealthy perspective that needs to be transformed, because this world has so much to offer. The last QHHT session that I had with the intention to connect to my star family and to remember some of the worlds, and my higher self just laughed. And obviously I laughed because I'm the higher self in that experience. And she was like, where do you want to go? Don't you know you're in the best place to be? Like, you wanted to be here. This is the most amazing adventure. And it was just laughing at my desire to connect elsewhere, because it knew how much I wanted. Like immediately that idea of just needing to go to stars, like actually this is the best place to be. Like, let's enjoy this fully and make the most of it, while also knowing that we are always connected to stars, to the whole cosmos. So that was very kind of eye-opening. The desire to be somewhere else was healed in that experience, and was true laughter.
Wow. I'm getting that sense of that freedom to choose, that divine free will sits within here. You can choose to keep shutting it off. That's your choice without the judgment. So, but this idea, if you do open up that fuller crown chakra and you've got these Andromedan star family connections, imagine the freedom to go explore galactically, multidimensionally, to help shape who you are today. It's just the invitation's there if you choose it, that freedom. And then I just wanted to end by showing this again, this idea of allowing that 5-6, the pentahexa, to, for me, embrace the angelic realms. So for me, saying yes, bringing in this color with this geometry. And what you're not seeing as I put crystals on the key points, but when I put them on and I try and take a photograph, sometimes it doesn't work so well. So here's another funny picture of me.
Before we go there, I just love how you chose this painting with the magenta, which shows up at the base, just below the red spectrum and just above the violet spectrum. It connects the two. It's like alpha and the omega. Would you agree? Would you identify this as magenta, the one that is surrounding the painting?
Yeah. Just it's funny, as you're saying, it's like you're showing me like it's all the colors of the chakras, right? Like there is green in there, yellow, blue, orange, but it's this almost like our homoluminous self, like
yes,
as we move into more light beings. And so thank you for saying that, because I love the purples and violets and lavenders. So it's either a red, blue, or a violet. So this idea of now moving back to the double rainbow. So yeah, here I am, no makeup again. So here we go. So this idea of may you be inspired. And I'm going to just erase all that self-judgment. Okay, I just said,
yes.
So I'll erase that, because give myself some credit for being courageous enough to say, it's time, Ursula, to remember and to add myself into the paintings and these stories, right? So if anyone listening, you've stayed this long in the conversation, if this helps you, what Julie and I are talking about, whether it's healing, whether it's knowing yourself, whether it's remembering to play from the delight of your inner child, this is what you can add into the collective field. And believe me, everything waves back 100-fold. Like my body, I just feel lighter, because there's this joy that just kind of keeps pouring in. And I don't know if that's the same for you, Julia. The more that you teach and the more you give of yourself, it's like it's a never ending, like a loop, a toroidal loop back to your heart chakra.
Absolutely. In freedom, there is peace and there's expansion, there's well-being, there's relaxation, there's just so much goodness in that, when you give yourself permission to share what you are joyful about, what you're excited about, what inspires you to create more and more. And so it's so inspirational to see all that. The question I have while we were talking, Ursie, is your interest in the esoterics and metaphysical and cosmic. Did it start at a certain point, like 2012, or were you peaking in that direction previously too, while you were in the process of painting the figure painting? Were you reading at that point already?
I was. I mean, when I checked in with my family, my aunt would tell me, you're always talking about this. This is all you talk about: the galactic, the esoteric, the mystical, the secrets, the alchemy. And so I had a hard time just putting myself in a box of painter. I feel better with explorer, like you do, researcher. It's this whole following the threads. And it's not a thread that anyone else is necessarily following. It's not one thread. It's this whole, how has your earth journey informed your decisions? And are you just going to play in the box of what others have found to be true? And I mean, as a kid, I was sitting in trees trying to talk to the birds and ask my angels if I could have wings so I could fly. This was my little kid. And I believed if I communed with them enough, I would have wings to fly.
So you would have spent a lot of time in nature, kind of in solitude and just with nature, right? With presence of nature. Did
Yeah,
you have, or kind of wandered and just explored?
yeah, it's always been nature, but I grew up in a family. I chose a family with 7 children. So it's like if I wasn't mothering them, I was like trying to hide for kind of like the peace and quiet.
Yeah.
And then I had a big family myself. But I think when a child has an issue, a health issue, that brought my laser beam, boom, like there's got to be a better way. We tried everything. Western medicine failed. Even this alternative stuff is failing. Help me understand. So it's actually the birth of my children and their issues that really got me going, oh my God, I would do anything to find the cure or help me understand so I can better parent. Thank you. That was the rocket fuel. The paintings just had to come out. I was just like, to balance me. But this helped me find a path to help. Each of my children seem to have some issue. And I'll just name out a few, whether it's anorexia, autism, ADHD, anything, addiction. Tell me, please, how, because it wasn't on my radar screen. At least I didn't think. So to save or help or inform them, that was my mother's heart saying, hey, let's do it. Let's do it. Nothing could stop me from exploring everything. And then guess what? At the end of all that searching, I found myself because they grew up as me and the dogs and my husband. And it's, you find yourself, and it's remembering to give yourself enough grace and care. And that was a harder shift, to shift the focus at yourself and say, you know what? You're okay. You don't have to be perfect. You're okay. You're just you.
The blessings in disguise, huh? And the contracts we make. And that reminds me of the Kyotoshi story where the family sits before they're all born, the parents, the children, sitting at a table planning the most difficult moments, kind of giggling away, total black humor. This is going to be fun. Yeah. It will be really challenging.
And then you tell them, hey, you went off the script. Like you went a little bit too much. When those issues come up that went really crazy, it's like, I know your free will, you could choose to go off, but did you have to go that far off? Like, did it have to really be that dark? And so
such a high initiation.
Yeah. Even like, relationships that you thought, oh, this is so much love. And then it turns the other equal and opposite way. It's like perfect timing. What did I learn? And so it's not about me or them. It's just this expansion. And to not judge myself like, oh, how could I have failed that? Well, it wasn't just about you, right? So
yeah, it's such a typical response of a parent. Where did I go wrong? What, how is this my fault? Did you find astrology or even galactic astrology helpful in, learning some or finding some validations or clues or kind of comfort in some of the findings that when you looked at the astrology?
100%. I think the astrology informed, along with human design, gene keys, numerology, you name it. I was ready to look at it, destiny cards, but it's the galactic that was the separator. That required almost like a huge quantum leap of trust to say, I have to get over my fear of aliens or the fear of what's in the dark and just go, you know what? It's story. And I get to, as magnificent, self, I get to decide who comes into this field and who doesn't. So learning how to hold barriers and protection. But the galactic was the game changer, Julia, seriously, because it made me go, we are way more than we imagine, way more.
I love how you always bring into our interviews the past, the present, and the future. And I am tempted to ask you about the future. So what's next with your art? Do you feel anything else there for you, or where are you at right now in your present moment, Ursula, as an artist?
Thank you. I'm calling in a divine relationship to move these works into the world. And so I'm not fretting about the timeline. I'm just almost anticipating when the collective is ready, these healing transmitters will find their homes. And it's without any pressure, but it's learning how to stand back. I've made my commitment. Now the other, instead of me trying to do it all, And I love offering galactic sessions. I have tears of recognition and remembering those who are drawn to me. It's like we've met before. And so we're here to kind of like help buoy and support and remind. And that's just such a dance to know that I'm finding family, and just to know that you're finding sisters and brothers and family, like
That's beautiful.
you and I finding one another. That just feels like perfect timing. So thank you
Yes.
for this gift of time and to help me get my portrait. This was a portrait today that I was sharing. It wasn't
Likewise.
easy
Well,
to
I
do.
felt that moment of all your beautiful art creation finding their home all over the earth, all over the globe, and how powerful and how magical that be, and how many beautiful stories will come out of it, how it will continue to entertain you and uplift you, and many others as well. I found it already being done. I felt it already being done as you spoke that prayer. So I will look forward to celebrating those moments with you. And my goodness, thank you for being such an inspiration and finding the courage to play with us, share with us. It's been such fun. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Julia. And I think one last thing is this is why my site is called Art of the Akash. So when you work with the Akash or in quantum, you're working with it's already done. And so you're just meeting up with it. In other words, the paintings are already painted in the ethers and you're just catching up with it. So too, when it's time to have them out in the world, it's already done. And I'm just catching up with it on the timeline. It's a different way. It's more of a multidimensional way of saying, I trust and I surrender to the flow, especially those super cosmic points of like the galactic center and super galactic. It's like, okay, we're playing. I don't have to push the river. I just flow with it. I wouldn't have learned this language without your help. So thank you for bringing a new way of defining who we are and having a language to kind of like, oh, what have you found to be true? It's like we're creating it together in a very Aquarian model. So thank you, and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you. I'm going to slide something else in before we say goodbye. I'm so sorry. So there are two websites, right, with your art. And so one of them is the Art of the Akash, where you have the beautiful color, power of color infused with sacred geometry, theartoftheakash.com, right?
Yes.
And the paintings are, many of them are there available in different sizes and different price points. And then there's your older website with the figure painting. Are those paintings also still available for sale?
They are. Some of them are. So
And
that's
what's the name there?
ursulafineart.com. It's interesting how I'm seeing like two of me, and the desire is to kind of work the third dimensional Ursula Fine Art with Art of the Akash. So they're showing me as a caduceus, right, for healing, to bring both sides of myself together. So I'm waiting for that staff. The path.
You know what? I think it makes so much sense for one household to hold both of these arts together in same space or different rooms, because at the point where we heal and transform and integrate all our aspects, we love the galactic art and the sacred geometry, but at that point we're also very open to admiring the figurative art or figure art. How do you say it?
Right, figurative, you got
Figurative art.
Abstraction.
Yeah, so it's not like we move away from it when we transcend. In fact, we want to welcome both of them and acknowledge them as part of life, equally valuable, right?
Yeah, thank you. In fact, what they're showing me are the 7 chakras. It's like, Ursula, you wouldn't just talk about the 3 and then put them in a website and then save the rest of 4. So from my heart, you're right. They're saying integrate it all. And so thank you. Because otherwise I'm like 2 people, 2 websites. So thank you for that, because this is an integration moment. Also,
and much of the figurative art, I feel it's such a beautiful snapshot of certain moment in our life, of certain emotion, and all of them seem very universal. We'll all go through them, and you were really gifted in capturing them through your own experience, but really we all can relate to them. So it's such a nice gift to oneself when you recognize what you've been through, what you've overcome, and have it as a reminder, but with a playful, appreciative smile, like I see the blessing in the sky there. That was the moment that changed my life for the better. And you have that. And, you know, you wouldn't have the photo capture, you wouldn't have it in any other way, but one of your arts perhaps will speak to people that feel like, okay, yeah, I can celebrate that now and I can bring that to my home. So
thank you. Had you not said yes to this little conversation, which I wouldn't have been able to see that the crown chakra really is that art of the Akash. It's this trajectory of being fully human, but then coming back around. So you're right. Thank you. That's a beautiful idea. And this only happens, I think, when we say two or more are gathered and we have our heart's best intention for the other. So thank you, dear Julia.
Much love to all.
Juicy. Take care. See you soon. Bye.